Thanks for watching The Thought Criminals, named after the resistance to the totalitarian thought police of George Orwell's 1984, which we now refer to as being woke. I'm your host, Rachel Alexander. I'm a weekly contributor to Townhall and other sites and the editor of Intellectual Conservative. And this is my mall, Ralph Benko, who worked in or with the Reagan, W. Bush, and Trump White Houses. He's a weekly columnist for Newsmax, co-author of the Capitalist Manifesto, and co-founder and executive chairman of the 187,000 member Capitalist League Facebook group. And we encourage everybody to go to thoughtcriminals.ning.com and sign up for our email updates. Today, as you might be able to guess based on my shirt, we are going to discuss Mark Brnovich's race for the US Senate in Arizona. We've got a debate scheduled for Thursday, which I will be covering. It's one of the most exciting races in the country because he's trying to take on one of the most vulnerable Democrats in the Senate right now, astronaut Mark Kelly, who's married to Gabby Giffords, herself a former member of Congress who was sadly seriously
assassination victim.
Yeah. So Mark Kelly has been an utter failure for Arizona. And so it looks like we will be able to have a good chance at taking back that seat. However, he does have millions and millions of dollars in the race.
He's got a huge war chest. He's got like $100 million war chest. He's got more of a Senate war chest than most presidential candidates have going into his race. And he's the incumbent. And he's an astronaut. Okay, and he is married to an assassination victim, or an attempted assassination victim. Okay, he's formidable, and so it's terribly important that you Arizonians, I don't know what you guys call yourselves,
Arizonians, put up a viable candidate,
the most powerful, strongest candidate who actually has a
chance
who will actually have the force to beat Kelly in the general election, because that could be the seat that tips the Senate Republican.
And we follow the William F. Buckley Jr. rule here, which I know you do. And since he's my idol, of course I follow it, which is you elect the most right person who is electable.
Right.
And I believe that at least one of Brnovich's main opponents is not electable against Mark Kelly. And I just want to lament that the problem with taking on Kelly's millions and millions is that right now the Republicans are spending all of their millions beating up on each other in the primary race. I think a fundamental flaw of primaries across the United States, including in Arizona, is that they are not held, with the exception of some of the presidential elections, which have been bumped up, including in Arizona. The primary elections are not held until the beginning of August. So we have months and months for Republicans to just spend all their money bashing each other. And that leaves us with what? Let's say a little bit of August, September, October, 3 months left to actually go after the Democrat. So we're in a very bad situation here, and it shows no signs of letting up, especially since the two candidates running, the major candidates, because I have to say there's more, the two major ones running against Mark Brnovich have millions behind them. They have, one of them is a billionaire already, and the other one is funded by an out-of-state Silicon Valley billionaire. And so I am finding myself.
Can I just tab you right there? Okay, the out-of-state Silicon Valley billionaire Peter Thiel, who's a very formidable, very impressive guy. Nothing against him. Okay, he was the one who got J.D. Vance nominated in Ohio. But just to put this in context, he's put up $10 million of his own money into a super PAC behind Blake Masters.
That's okay. The candidate running.
That's impressive, but it's chump change compared to what Mark Kelly's sitting on. And there is absolutely no indication that and no likelihood that Mr. Thiel is going to pony up $100 million for the general election. And that matters. Okay, if this is to the extent that politics is about money, and that's, it's a factor. It's not the only factor, but it's a factor. Okay, then this is a lot of money for a primary, but it does not imply that that Peter is going to pony up the kind of money that Mark Kelly has in his war chest. So therefore, it means it's going to be a fight based upon quality, a fight based upon a recognition of what really matters to Arizonans, and a fight based upon somebody who has shown himself to be a fighter, a crusader, who will come to Washington and instead of immediately going native or promoting his own agenda and his own career, vaulting himself into the presidential race or whatever it is, it matters that you send somebody who, if he wins, okay, is going to be a fighter for what he promised to crusade on. And let me tell you, Brnovich is proven himself to be a fighter. He's proven himself to be a man
the
of
Biden
integrity.
administration more than probably anyone else ever. And I'm trying to get some confirmation of that, but I believe that might be right based on all of the articles, because I'm a local.
If it's an exaggeration, it's a legitimate exaggeration, because he's certainly in the top tier. So Brnovich has shown. Look, I've had this conversation with some of my friends who are political outsiders, unlike me, a political insider. Okay, and the fact is that, okay, you get elected to the United States Senate, you're 1 out of 100 people. Now, if you happen to be the one that tips the majority in the Republican direction, that's significant in and of itself. But in terms of really finally bringing it home, okay, you need somebody who is absolutely tenacious and who is prepared to crusade on the issues that we care about. I'm not saying that Blake Masters wouldn't, or Lamon. I'm sorry, Lamon.
Jim Lamon. He is the billionaire from Alabama.
Right. I have no opinion about. I don't know enough about either one of them to hold an opinion, although that's significant in and of itself. Okay. I believe that the burden of proof is for the aspirants to office to show by word, by deed, as well as word, that they are willing to, if elected, they are willing to crusade on the values and the issues that the people of Arizona care the most about. And you know what? I am totally convinced that Mark Brnovich is a crusader. If Mark Brnovich ends up in the United States Senate, I believe he is going to be a total pain in the patootie for the left, because he's proven himself to be a total pain in the patootie for the left in Arizona for the last, 8 years? Okay, the guy just doesn't let up. And he doesn't do it just to pwn the libs. He's not just doing it as a rhetorical gesture to show them up in a debate. Okay, he fights with every tool that we give him, the tools of his office, to fight for what it is that we sent him to, we elected him to fight for. So that is something that is really rare. And I know, I watch politics. To me, I'm a political junkie. Most of these people, they talk a good game, but when the chips are down, they're conveniently absent. Brnovich is, represents somebody who actually follows through and fights, and I give him a lot of credit for that.
And you mentioned he uses the tools of his office. I want to make a point about that. Brnovich is now getting the reputation for being kind of the Ron DeSantis of Arizona. And the reason he is because he's so proactive. He is doing so much stuff. And if anybody wants the list of it, message me and I will give you a list of some of the articles I've written about him. I've never seen a politician this proactive in my lifetime. And he doesn't get credit for it, which is unfair. And what people don't realize is Ron DeSantis has a lot more leeway to do things as governor than Brnovich does as attorney general. He only has the powers granted to him by the state constitution. So for him to have done as much stuff as he's done, it's incredible. And it's a story that's not getting told because these billionaires running against him, they have the ear of some, conservative publications, and I'm not going to name names, but they are out there portraying Brnovich as a rhino when there's nothing further from the truth. Anything they can jump on and pounce on and say, hey, there's evidence he didn't, go after this and prosecute this because he's a rhino. No, that's not true. There's actually a reason behind all these little incidences that they keep pointing out. And I find myself just embroiled in disputes with people all the time trying to get it out. But unfortunately, we have people who are being bought with money. You've got paid Twitter trolls out there who are just spreading this information about Brnovich that's just flat out not true.
Yeah, well, thank goodness for you and your town hall column, because you managed to keep pushing the facts out there. So if you look up Rachel Alexander at townhall.com, and excuse me, I'm getting some kind of weird computer dialogue that says,
is it the Russians?
It probably because the Russians probably don't want to see Brnovich elected to the United States Senate. So anybody who is pro-Ukraine is pro-me, and I think Brnovich is not actually Ukrainian name. I think it's probably a Serbian name, but close enough for my purposes. So I am, I'm very happy. Can you sort of tiptoe through a couple of your most recent columns that touched on Brnovich and Brnovich's race, so that people who happen to have missed that issue of Town Hall can be informed with the true news rather than fake news?
Well, he's basically sued the Biden administration over every major issue you can think of, from COVID to election integrity to environmental to illegal immigration. He's won some of these very high-profile lawsuits, including one where Katie Hobbs would not defend two of Arizona's election integrity lawsuits. So he stepped in, took it all the way to Supreme Court, argued in front of the Supreme Court, and won in Brnovich versus DNC. And his most recent legal maneuver is he got together a bunch of other AGs in a coalition and left a comment, sent a letter to the SEC over one of their proposed rules. This ridiculous rule would make businesses that are publicly traded disclose all this information about climate change and carbon dioxide emissions. And the SEC even admits it would increase their costs by over $500,000. And so Brnovich basically in his brief, which he spearheaded, he just laid out all the reasons why, this is just a usurpation of the 10th Amendment, of what, states usually regulate. It goes outside of the SEC's area of expertise. Why do we even have an EPA? Isn't that what the Environmental Protection Agency is supposed to be doing, rules like this? What's the SEC doing? And the SEC is dominated by Democrats. And also, it's under the Biden administration. So this explains why they're trying to go in that direction. But that's just one of his most recent one. Another one of his big things he's done is he said that we have a invasion on the U.S. border with Mexico. And he said it's proper for Doug Ducey to announce that there is an invasion and start taking steps, which would mean, Arizona officers could start arresting these criminals coming over the border. And because right now it's just left to the Border Patrol to handle that. And as we all know, the Biden administration would rather, put people up in hotels and give them, free Ubers around the country. So that was a major step taken by Brnovich.
Wait, if I renounce my citizenship, I can get free hotels and free Uber if I just come across the border? That sounds actually pretty good.
Well, you probably need to be committing serious crimes as well, because
I have ethical misgivings about doing that, even for free Uber rides. So
okay. It's probably not going to work out for you. One thing that people haven't noticed is over the years, when I was at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, the focus was on arresting illegal immigrants, regardless of committing crimes. Now they pretty much all get a free pass. Now the focus is only on illegal immigrants that commit serious crimes. So basically, the Biden administration is turned their back on illegal immigrants that commit serious crimes. And so Brnovich is merely, trying to crack down on that aspect.
Okay, well, look, I admire, as you know, I am far to your right on immigration. Okay, I believe that we should be encouraging these people to come here. I believe that they're a form of foreign aid. And do you know who illegal immigrant number one is?
Let me guess, Jesus, George Washington.
Superman, who came from the planet Krypton without papers and was illegally raised by Ma and Pa Kent. And Superman is truth, justice, and the American way, and he is illegal alien number one. So all of you guys who want to deport Superman, I think, are not nearly as conservative as me. That said, I think that Brnovich's willingness to fight against as a crime fighter. And by the way, the Attorney General's office is not fundamentally a law enforcement office; it's a civil office.
Most of it, right?
Most of it. And so I give him extra credit for using whatever powers this office has in order to support, in order to follow through on his oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in order to make sure that the will of the governed. I mean, you read the Declaration of Independence, right? And legitimacy of government is based upon the will of the governed. The people of Arizona want their elected officials to protect them, and Mark Brnovich has been very protective of the people of Arizona.
You bring up a really good point about the fact that it's primarily a civil administrative office, and prosecution is a very small part of the Attorney General's office. And some of my viewers know, I worked at the Attorney General's office from 2000 to 2003 with Brnovich. He literally had an office next to mine. I could knock on my wall, and that's how we became such good buddies, because we were both writing right-wing columns before that for our when we were in law school. He wrote for ASU's paper and I wrote for the University of Arizona. But what I wanted to say about that is his opponents are beating up on him for things like not arresting the Maricopa County supervisors for election related things. And I have to point out that
that is so unfair. Okay, that is absolutely unfair of his opponents. That is a gross distortion both of what his authority is, what his powers are, and what really happened. So the fact that Brnovich is sticking with, he's a reality-based elected official rather than a fantasy-based elected official, I give him great props for that.
Well, I look at it this way. I was at the Maricopa County Attorney's Office under former Maricopa County Attorney Andrew Thomas, and what happened to him after he arrested 2 Maricopa County supervisors? You are taking on the machine, and if you make one tiny little technical mistake, they will destroy you. And with us lawyers, they will come after us with the left-wing dominated bars, and they will take away our law licenses. And so that's what happened to Andrew Thomas. He was disbarred, and it didn't mean that he didn't have a strong case against the Maricopa County supervisors. It just meant they were able to find some friendly judge who was like, oops, we think you made a little technical mistake here, and from everything I've seen, I don't believe he did make a technical mistake, but it doesn't matter. That's how the legal system works. That's the sad part about it. So Brnovich cannot come and rush and arrest anybody unless he has a really locked-tight case. And what people don't understand is some of these things that happen. For example, when ballots come in and the signatures,
Rachel, let's just stay away from the whole ballot thing because it's too potential.
Well,
okay? The point here is that Brnovich
wasn't crimes.
It's not Brnovich's job to prosecute the other elected officials in the county. It's just not his job. Okay, if you don't like what your elected officials do, vote them out of office. Okay, to weaponize this and escalate it and to hold Brnovich somehow responsible for not having done so shows that he is a responsible a responsible public servant. And so anybody who's attacking him for not having attempted to arrest Maricopa County supervisors just doesn't know the law and doesn't know best practices.
Yeah,
So,
and you and I have worked, for politicians behind the scenes. We're both lawyers. We know how it all shakes out. And these people out there, I feel like they just say these things to get clicks, to get people to read their articles. Whoever can sound the most dramatic and the most outraged. And you know what? Honestly, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Okay.
Wait a minute, you're already off on a tangent. You're going off on a tangent? Go for it.
Okay. I have a friend who literally gets anxiety from headlines from one of these sites that's always bashing Brnovich and demanding this and saying that the sky is falling and that all these arrests are going to happen in this and that. And they're always saying these things. And you know what? Most of this stuff never happens because they hype everything up and they get people, whipped up into this frenzy thinking that things are going to happen that aren't going to happen. And that's what they've been doing to Brnovich. And it's so frustrating to me, and they don't listen to those of us who have been lawyers on the inside, and we know how it all plays out, and there's a certain strategy and there's a certain level nature way you have to take it. And when I went and watched the Arizona Attorney General debate a month or so ago with all these candidates vying to replace Brnovich, soon after I sat down there and I heard what they were saying, and they were almost all bashing Brnovich, right? Calling him a rhino. I predicted whichever one of these gets elected within a couple of years, they're going to be disbarred. You cannot talk like that recklessly and saying you're just going to go out there and prosecute people and then have it not all, turn out the way you expect. The Arizona bar is one of the most vicious left-wing bars in the country. They will come after these people. It's just a matter of time.
Let me just pivot here a little bit, and I've got two more questions before we've exhausted our time and our viewers' patience. Rachel, okay, there's going to be a big debate on Thursday. Today's Tuesday, right? Happy first day of summer, and also happy Feast of Saint Ralph. I'm very proud to have a Catholic feast day named after me. I don't know what I did to deserve it.
For your dinner from Ralph's grocery store?
No, this is me, Ralph Benko. I assume that the Feast of Saint Ralph is all about me. Okay, so anyway, the summer solstice. Okay, what should we look for in the debate between the three contenders for the United States Senate, Brnovich and his two rivals? Number one, and number two. Last I heard, Brnovich had a narrow lead. Where do you see the momentum breaking as we go into the final 100 days of this race?
Glad you brought that up. I was really getting distracted. So with the debate coming up, Blake Masters has been endorsed by Trump, and we can get into that, but we all know.
Let's not. Trump's got about a 50-50 record of his of his endorsements when it comes to a competitive race. Okay, look, he totally lost Georgia, which was his number one endorsement. Both Brian Kemp and Raffensperger, right? Those were his arch enemies, number one. He endorsed their opponents and he lost. Okay, Donald Trump is perfect. Donald Trump's endorsement is not magic fairy dust. So yes, he endorsed somebody else, but the fact is that just as you said, Brnovich is the DeSantis of Arizona. Tough as nails, conservative as heck. I don't know if I could use the HELL word on YouTube without getting shadow banned. But in any case,
love it. The lefties are fine with that.
What are you looking forward to in this debate? What are they going to be talking about, and who do you give the who do you give the advantage to when it comes to this? How long is the debate? Where is it going to be held? Who's the moderator, and what are they going to be talking about?
Okay, so before I go into those exact details, I need to preface that with his two main opponents, Jim Lamon and Blake Masters, have been bashing each other with campaign ads on TV the last month, just brutally. And they're only focusing on each other. They're not focusing on Brnovich, which has really added an interesting dynamic into it. And some of the accusations are just, I mean, just outrageous. And luckily, Brnovich has been able to stay above the fray.
What are they accusing each other of? What is Lamon accusing Masters of? What's Masters accusing Lamon of? I'm curious. I'm not there, so I don't see the commercials.
So, okay, the main attacks are going from Lamon against Masters, and they are looking at things he said or written. Now we're in the past, you know, like one of the most.
Oh, you when Masters called for open borders back when he was a college student, right?
And then just a couple weeks ago, he said that blacks are responsible for shooting crimes. And it was just not very well stated the way he said it. But that's, you know, that's just one. I mean, there's other things that he's really gone after him for. He always points out that he's funded by a Silicon Valley out-of-state billionaire. And then Masters shoots back at Lamon by saying, you know, he's a carpetbagger. He originally came from Alabama. His company has ties to China. Makes jokes at him for being like old and past middle age, things like that. So
wait a minute, I'm old and past middle age. I take objection to that.
Well, I wrote in my column a couple of weeks ago that I think both criticisms against the candidate for being, you know, too old or too young or too inexperienced, not inexperienced. I mean, I just think most of that stuff is bogus. But anyway, those attacks, I believe, are having some effects, and I think that it's going to leave Brnovich to have the stable conservative vote, and then all the people who are just upset and you know, angry. I think those people are going to be split between the two challengers. So going into this debate, I think a lot of what we're going to see is we're going to see attacks on Brnovich for being a rhino, and I think he's brilliant. The guy, I mean, you've heard him speak. He's so quick, and he's got such a good knowledge of history, and he does have such an extensive record that I think he's going to actually be able to turn it around on these guys and say, no, you misinterpreted that, and you know, here's my record. And right now, as you're saying with the polls, you know, there's some polls that are showing that Masters is sort of pulled ahead. But Brnovich's internal polls, and granted, we know those are a little biased, they still show him ahead. And so I still think this is Brnovich's to lose. It did worry me after Masters got the Trump endorsement. That got me a little nervous. But since he keeps making these missteps, you know, one of his other missteps was he got into a physical brawl with an older man who had a Black Lives Matter t-shirt on. And you know, that didn't go over so well. So if he keeps doing stuff like that, loose lips and making mistakes like that, I think the Trump endorsement, Trump might even pull the endorsement. I've heard from inner people in Trump's campaign, Trump's people, that they are concerned they made a mistake now by endorsing it.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you, Rachel, as a political insider who has been keeping her finger on the pulse of the Arizona Senate race. You have given us true news instead of fake news. You've given us the insiders, outsiders, and all-arounders view. So we're looking to see, you know, we both have a very high opinion of Mark Brnovich, the Attorney General who's now running for U.S. Senate. We also think he is the most he's the most qualified to beat the Democratic incumbent Mark Kelly, and that's an important race, both in its own right, in terms of our partisan hopes.
And we got to point out too that when they had a poll that came out a few months ago, I haven't seen any recent ones, but when they showed the candidates head to head against Mark Kelly, I believe Brnovich was the only one beating him.
What we're looking at here is Mark versus Mark. Mark my words. So thank you, Rachel. Let's reconvene here next week, and we'll be very interested in hearing your take on how the debate went.
I will have an article coming out for everybody who misses it, and I'm sure it'll be televised because it's a big one put on by Freedomworks, and anybody in Phoenix can go downtown. I think it starts at 6 p.m. This Thursday.
6 p.m. Phoenix time. Okay, thank you. Keep us posted.
Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week.
See you next week.